Good morning. My name is Dr. Tom English. I was the program manager for the high-level nuclear waste team from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Caltech, and Scripps Institution of Oceanography. We conducted studies for the President's Office of Science and Technology Policy, the Government of Sweden, California Energy Commission, and NASA. So I have a bit of background in this area. I'm here to comment on three aspects of the SONG's high-level nuclear waste plans. Number one, the move to dry storage. Number two, the environmental conditions at the new site. Number three, something that doesn't get a whole lot of press, and that is the terrorism aspects associated with this. We learned from the meltdowns at Fukushima that it is essential to remove the high-level nuclear waste from the spent fuel pools. It just doesn't make sense to keep them there forever. However, when we make a move like that, the waste must not be moved to a site where the overall risk is far greater. I think that's a reasonable condition. It's hard to imagine a worse choice for interim, quote, dry storage than the current site. It's very close to the ocean, and it will be stored a few inches above water. Furthermore, the risk of terrorist attack at the approved site is much greater than leaving the waste in the current spent fuel pool. So when you make a decision, you should make a decision that makes things better as opposed to worse, and especially far worse. Please reconsider your decision. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Patterson?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to thank you for your service to California and protecting our coast. I'm here today to comment on the nuclear waste storage. I know a permit has already been granted. I just learned about this yesterday, a little bit slow in the uptake. However, what I'd like to say is I think our brilliant scientists made comments that we really need to consider. When we think about Fukushima and the disaster that happened there and the consequences that are still being felt with radioactive levels in our waters have risen, that the danger of putting nuclear waste in such a fragile site is beyond comprehensible. I heard that someone said it was the death of common sense, and I must say I agree with that statement. So I don't know what can be done at this point, but I urge that we really look at what is a better solution that will not endanger the large population centers and our fragile oceans. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Stephen Kinney? And after him, Torgen Johnson. And if you kind of just line up, we can get through this more quickly and here have more speakers.
Good morning. Thank you for your public service and the opportunity to speak publicly. We appreciate you honoring that. It's very important to what we hope to accomplish as a community. Just some high points. You know these already. The commission's aware of these.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you state your name for the record, please?
L.T. Wallace. So regarding the Coastal Commission's issuing of the permit on October 6th, 2015, the issue at hand is that it's in the center of 8.5 million people near an earthquake fault in a tsunami zone 108 feet from the ocean, which most people here are to talk about the preservation and protection of. We're next to an interstate highway, 20,000 vehicles an hour, and adjacent to the second busiest rail corridor in the United States of America. These are already, of course, known. I'm speaking to the heart of the matter, specifically to just the vulnerable nature that was stated earlier by the gentleman regarding terrorist attacks that can barely even be calculated. And when something's uncalculable, it doesn't seem like it can be evidence for granting permission to do something that's an uncalculated risk. The Coastal Commission permit also allows the canisters that the Commission knows cannot be inspected, repaired, maintained, or adequately monitored, and may permanently crack and leak. These cans are not transportable if they are partially cracked. An earthquake could crack one of these cans at any time, and there is no seismic rating for the safety of the canisters. The Commission added special conditions to the permit that these problems must be solved after 20 years, meaning there's no evidence at this time that this is even possible. Something to consider, the definition under California law, criminal negligence refers to a mental state of disregarding known or obvious risks to human life and safety. Based upon the aforementioned information, you could say there's evidence of criminal negligence under California law, as the mental state of disregarding known or obvious risks to human life and safety is clear and present in the act of granting the permit after disclosure of these facts. In addition, the reckless disregard for protection of the public present at the moment of the unsafe storage of radiation begins in the moment it's gone in. Granting of the permit in question also demonstrates a disregard for human life or an indifference to the consequences by exempting Southern California Edison from monitoring responsibilities for the integrity of the units as they do not exist. A reasonable person in this situation would know the act naturally and probably results in harm to other people. Having knowledge of this danger and failing to act for the containment vessels would likely result in death or serious bodily injury to other persons if in the event of failure. Additionally, any incident would immediately decimate the personal property of everyone in this area. I'm a resident of Oceanside. I'm 15 miles from this site. Please bear in mind that Section 1983 of Title 42 USC imposes liability without defense on state and local officials who, acting under color of law in their individual capacity, deprive plaintiffs of rights created by the Constitution and federal law. Since we have the right to life, liberty, and property, and failure to uphold the existing laws in a criminally negligent manner is actionable to the fullest extent of the law. But it is not too late. The California Coastal Commission...
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
I was also gifted the time from Shania Pelka.
By who?
Shania Pelka, I believe you'll see the attachment.
A speaker card? Well, all right, then go
Yep.
ahead and finish.
So I would just finish this up by saying the Commission can rectify this criminal act and put an end to their liability by holding responsible the parties to the existing laws, which would not allow the storage as currently permitted. We the people hereby demand an immediate cease and desist order, followed by a full revocation for the permit in question, pending a complete investigation into on-site burial by Southern California Edison at San Onofre State Beach. Now, I've made an appeal to truth, facts, and evidence, but I want to make an appeal to you all as human beings. I'd actually like to ask someone to stand. Abria Pilka, 15 years old, wanted to come today and blow everything off because she wanted to have the opportunity for you to see her. She lives in Oceanside. This affects her. I mean, I'm just a dumb adult, but this is a 15-year-old child, and we're making decisions that will, without any chance to rectify, ensure her fate, ensure all of our fates in a situation we can't fathom. I want to also point out today in Hanford, the nuclear site is currently leaking, and the FAA has issued a flight ban over the area. We can't control this. We're human beings. We got some good qualities to us, but we can't plan for everything. We can't make these decisions. We can't put it on these young people in the future. Anyone that has children or
Thank
families.
you. I'm sorry, your time is up, and you have many other supporters here who would probably like to speak. So I'm actually going to break format here for a second. We don't normally respond to public comment. It's just one of our procedural things. But I would like, if Mr. Peterson would mind, just to let everyone know where the commission stands within the legality of being able to do anything more about the site and what our jurisdiction is. And then that may help you understand what we can do.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peterson, would you just explain our jurisdiction in terms of that permit and that site, and maybe even mention who could possibly address some of these issues they're talking about, whoever that may be?
Yes, certainly. Under federal law, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is the agency that has jurisdiction to address radiological safety concerns related to nuclear power plants. So back in, I believe it was October of 2015, the Commission approved the CDP for dry cask storage of nuclear waste there. The Commission did evaluate that project for, consistency with Coastal Act requirements in terms of safety from shoreline erosion hazards, et cetera. But federal law preempts the Commission from regulating the radiological safety aspects. Those are the responsibility of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Right. And so just to, no, I'm sorry, you can't really speak out from the audience. Well, I didn't even have the second speaker card, but may I just... I'm really trying to be helpful and to address your concerns. I'm also trying to give you information. Do we need another reason? Chris? Yes, excuse me, the Attorney General would like to speak. Ms. Patterson.
Yes, Commissioners and members of the public. Once the Commission makes a final decision, the Commission is not permitted to revisit that decision absent two things. One would be a court order requiring finding the Commission made a mistake and remanding that matter to the Commission for a new hearing, if you will. And the other would be a legitimate request for revocation of the permit. Presently, there is a lawsuit. There's a proper format to do that, and you can contact local staff and they will assist you with that. There is a lawsuit that was filed. It's scheduled for a hearing in July on the 14th. It was originally set to be heard last month. It's been continued in order to allow the petitioners, which is Citizens Oversight, to discuss settlement with SoCal Edison, the permit applicant.
Thank you very much. I hope that was helpful. It's not like we don't care about this issue. Obviously, we live on the coast too, and I think it's not just a national issue, it's a international issue, as we've seen in Japan. So I think all of this energy and commitment should be directed at the proper agency if you're really going to get a result. And I don't think being angry and yelling at us is going to help anybody. It just kind of shuts us down and doesn't get you anywhere near what you want. So to that, I'm continuing with public comment, even though we're way past, but you're Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, just state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Torgen Johnson from Solana Beach. I'm a father of 4 children living 30 miles downwind of San Onofre. I'm also a Harvard-trained architect and urban planner. Coincidentally, in 2013, in this very room, my wife and I hosted the former Prime Minister of Japan. We organized a conference, and it was called Fukushima, Lessons for Southern California. It's posted on the Samuel Lawrence website, which I also represent while I'm here today. I want to say simply, after hearing your speak and your legal discussion, I understand that you, along with the rest of us, are in over our heads with regard to the technicality of the fuel. But sometimes events happen that clarify the simplicity of the issue, and Fukushima was that event. It was a live crash test of a nuclear fuel facility and a coastline and natural forces, the same conditions we have here in Southern California at San Onofre. The lessons that former Prime Minister had to share with us are this. He said very clearly, I was concerned about the fuel most of all. My nuclear experts in Japan were anticipating the evacuation of Tokyo, 160 miles away, and he said that was a permanent evacuation. He said in this very room, I almost lost Japan. We have several Fukushimas worth of fuel stored in a deficient system 100 feet from a public recreational beach. When he saw that facility, he was horrified. He was horrified that we've been so misinformed about the nature of this facility and the fuel, that we have children playing in front of the facility. And on top of that, there's no public process, there's no public venue that allows the public to voice its concerns, to defend its public interest in this. Every agency is preempted by federal preemption to not talk about safety. And the very agency, the NRC, that's supposed to defend public safety is a completely captured regulatory agency. Thank you for reconsidering the permit, and understand that your responsibility in this is that you're one of the last entities that has any say in whether or not this fuel gets left there indefinitely. I brought my daughter here so she can see all of you and understand this decision. I know you're going to make the right decision. But I want to just say, there's been no public process. I've been to all the NRC meetings. In this room, by the way, was one of the former commissioners of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission that dealt with the 3 Mile Island disaster. And there was also the former chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We invited and paid for all these people to come here to speak to the public and inform the public of what this fuel really means. If you want to protect access to the beaches, protect the public from this fuel. And I know that you've been lobbied by Edison. That's how they operate. They
I'm
closed
sorry,
down
sir,
the
your
public
time
system.
is up.
I'd like to finish. They closed down the public.
I'm sorry, I don't even know who
Thank
you
you.
are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. What happens in the process, and I've seen this repeatedly, is that Edison determines the terms and conditions of all decisions. They're the only ones that hold the technical information. And what these agencies like yours have to do is rely on Edison's judgment and their technical assessment. But this is a regulated monopoly that doesn't even answer to the free market. We are all chained to this entity who has foisted a nuclear industry on us here in Southern California that we've had no say in any of the decisions, absolutely none, about our safety. Ironically, it's the Coastal Commission in this
Sir,
minor
I'm sorry,
permit that
your
allows...
I'm sorry, sir, your time is up. There was no speaker slip for that lady. There is no speaker slip, so may I just suggest,
I
I am
was granted.
sorry, I am running this meeting, you are not. Now listen to me for 1 second.
And I'm protecting my family, and
Sir,
I expect
You are not
to have...
protecting your family. You are disrupting a meeting.
Ma'am, ma'am...
Sir.
Ma'am...
All right, take 2 minutes, and then public comment is closed.
Let me...
Take your 2 minutes. Go right
Let me
ahead.
finish.
No, I don't.
This...
All right.
The,
We are-
please
No,
let me
I'm
speak.
sorry. We are now on recess. You've lost your 2 minutes.
Please.
You've lost your argument.
Please
If
let
you
me-
would like, I'm
please let me
sorry, sir.
finish.
I am speaking. I am leading this meeting. You are not.
I understand.
All right,
And I
we are
understand that
dismissed.
you're in over your head, too, because
are
of your...